Okay, in this lecture we will cover some characteristics of construction projects, and the learning objectives are going to be to kind of get an understanding of the impact of construction industry on the national growth, especially in India. Look at the project stakeholders, who are the players who actually participate in the project and what they get out of the project. Look at the phases of a project. Okay, this is a very important part. Organization, how is a project organized and what are the aspects of project organization, and then finally we start getting into scheduling and understanding what does a scheduling engineer do, what are the levels of scheduling, and this will then lead us to the more focused part of what we start from lecture 3 on the concepts of scheduling. So let us get started on the first objective. If we look at the national GDP, you can kind of see the blue line. We have been since around 2002 we have actually been on this part, which is really skyrocketing upwards. Okay, so this is the GDP, and around here we have been skyrocketing upwards. Now if you take this GDP pattern and overlay it with the growth of the construction share in the GDP, so when you go back we are close to $1.8 trillion, and you will see the share of the construction industry has also been rising, and we are at nearly 8% of the GDP, which is a very high value. Okay, so basically when we look at our economy and we are saying that this is the contribution of the construction industry, which means that we are a very important industry to the nation. Now it is not just from the GDP percentage. If you look at what we are going to be in 2020, so this is a very interesting graph, which are you exposed to this graph before? No? Okay, so it is something which you want to be able to look at, and this is one reason why there is so much of interest in India. If you look at, so this is it's called a population pyramid. Okay, and basically what you have on the right on each bar, so as you go up you have different age groups. So you have for example 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, different age groups as you go up, and you have the population of people in this case in India and China it is in millions. Okay, it is actually in million people, okay, population, and as you can see the green bar represents the number of people in the age group 0 to 4, the yellow bar 5 to 9. So when you look at this graph, what is the pattern you see? What makes India attractive as a place to invest in the future?
You to 60.
No, more of you.
Yes, it says that there is a very young. So a population pyramid which is shaped this way means older people on top are fewer, younger people are more. Okay, population pyramid which is this way means what? What does it mean to the economy of the country? Population is not necessarily decreasing, it's a increasing older age population. Okay, you can see in Japan's case, okay, it's almost the older population is actually in some cases you can see the 45, 50 is more than the younger population. What does this mean in the future of the country? Let us say take it another 20 years, what does it mean?
So the working people,
yes, the people who can generate revenue for the country will, people who are living who are unable to generate are more than the people who are able to generate if it is an inverted pyramid, in which case it is not a very good sign for the country. There is fundamentally something wrong. Okay, so you will find that right now India is among all of these, you can see India is in a very healthy reasonable pyramid, but you can actually go to the web and project these for future and you will find how the population changes. This is only for 2020. Okay, you can see China, it has because of their population policies it is a varying population. You can see some of the African countries have almost a very classic pyramid. It is a real well pyramidal shape, but of course populations are much lower. Okay, you can see so the right side shows the female population, the left side shows the male population. Okay, so graphs like this are used to project what is going to be the situation in a country from economic perspective, from growth perspective, from development perspective, because finally it's population which drives the whole issue. Okay, Any questions or clarifications on this, observations? Okay, if we now go to this concept that to support this population we need infrastructure development. So whether we like it or not, okay, for that, I mean, unless we develop infrastructure, our people are simply not going to be able to sustain just living a reasonable quality of life. So when you go into infrastructure, you will find, okay, you are familiar with this, we need roads, we need several thousands of kilometers of roads, we need ports for a trade, we need airports, okay, and you will be seeing, how many new airports are being built today?
In almost
all tier 2 cities, even major cities, Mumbai International, Dial just got completed very successfully, one of the largest airports. Mumbai International Airport, Chennai is under construction, Hyderabad just got constructed, Bangalore was over and now they are going for phase 2. You go into the tier 2 cities, all over there are airports being constructed. So what used to be basically a runway and a very small airport building where you came in and passed through is becoming a commercial center today, okay. You take any of these things. If I go back to ports, okay, large amount of port development activities, we are a coastal nation, there is a lot of opportunity. Why are neighbors who are much smaller being able to capitalize on port trade much more than we are? Because we do not have, so say a country like Singapore has a capacity, has much larger capacity for port activity than India for its size. How do we even compete with that? Or we have the potential to do so, and we really need development in these kind of regions. Okay, I go back to roads, same story, whether it is national highways or rural roads, without you, I mean, you have seen how much difference a road makes to a area. The minute you have transportation infrastructure, the area develops. The minute the area, and then the quality of life goes up, literacy goes up, everything else goes up. So for national development, all these kind of infrastructure is very critical. Let us continue. So we looked at general, mostly transportation infrastructure, but if you look at urban population, you can see here, okay, you can look at, so China is still the most populous country in the world, but somewhere people expect India to overtake China, and we will be the largest population with a reasonably good pyramidal distribution. So there is a lot we need to do to be able to capitalize on that, okay. And another trend you see, if you look at the rural population versus the urban, okay, as we go forward in time, the rural population will drop and the urban population is what is going to, people are going to move from rural to urban areas. These are trends which you see. Now basically what is the expectation out of this trend? So you are looking at 2020, 2030, all of you are in your peak of your career at that stage, right. You are going to have more urban population than rural population, or a significantly larger urban population. What is the impact? Need for infrastructure, okay, all kinds of infrastructure. So again, just re-emphasizing this urban infrastructure part, okay. So here just look at some of these comparisons. We have we'll have 13, so population goes up from, goes to 590, and we will have 13 cities with more than 4 million people, okay, out of which 6 will have more than 10 million people, okay. We will have 55 cities with more than 1 million, the US only has 9 cities with more than 1 million, we will have 55, and you can see that again the trend is that urban population is going to increase, and this is a totally, it's infrastructure at a national level, dams, roads is one thing, urban infrastructure is another very big area of development. So we need real estate, urban infrastructure, and you are experiencing that today. All kinds of infrastructure is being built, from Chennai metro to whether it is IT buildings or commercial buildings or housing projects, water supply systems, okay, but we cannot ignore rural infrastructure, because still a lot of our population is going to be in a rural area. I mean, quality of life there is also very important, but the needs are slightly different. You are going to have sanitation projects, housing projects, more of rural housing, irrigation, rural roads, all of this. So all of this is going to, I mean, based on current projections, in the next 20-25 years, this just has to sustain. This level of growth has, I mean, this level of infrastructure development has to sustain if our population is going to maintain or at least continue this quality of life, or improve ideally we should improve our quality of life. Now this is another big area. We are facing, in the situation today, we are facing so much of power shortage, and this is a very major area in which we need, whether it is renewable energy or whether it is nuclear energy or whether it is traditional thermal power plant, we need power, otherwise we are not going to be able to fuel our industries. I mean, there is just no growth, so much of growth depends on power. Okay, so if you actually look at the 5-year plans, what we see here is the 5-year plan that was over last year. This was the outlay for what we are talking about. So these are the sectors, and most of these are directly construction sectors, okay, and this is the planned outlay. It's for the next 5-year plan. So there is a huge amount of investment going in to the construction sector. What is it? So from a policy point of view, from a planning commission point of view, they are pushing all this money into the construction sector. What is the limitation? What is the bottleneck? What resources? We really don't have. So if you look at, I mean, we don't have the construction industry bandwidth to be able to handle this much of money in this shorter time. Our companies have to grow, and be able to, and so that means there is a lot of opportunity in the construction industry, to be able to, I mean, the government has decided that this is what needs to be done, and this is just the public sector. You bring in the private sector now, it's a even larger, I mean, not even larger, it's as significant kind of investments that are going on. Okay, so when we look at this from the national perspective, one is, yes, industries, I mean, construction companies or construction project delivery mechanisms have to be devised to be able to spend all this money efficiently in this next few years. One, let's go back to some of the questions we asked last time, or when we looked at objectives. What are the objectives of a project? Quickly. Time, cost,
quality,
safety,
environment.
How many of these objectives are met on projects today?
Those three are definitely met.
Are they met?
no,
The effort is.
So we are now, let's say this is little more difficult to measure for now, but we know these. So if you take an average project in a country, is this satisfied or not satisfied? Not satisfied. Okay, most projects overrun on time, overrun on cost, quality is not, it could be much better. Okay, might be for a safety perspective it's okay, I mean structural safety might be okay, but general quality of construction can be really, it leaves a lot to be desired, as we will put it. The question is, so we are saying, are they met? No. Why? Why are they not?
lack of proper management guidelines.
Okay, so one I mean, so there will be many reasons. One place where we can kind of make a change is in what we would say professional management. And at all levels. We are not just talking about project manager level, we are talking about that, at all levels in the project site, right down to the foreman who is actually supervising the work, right down to, another point which comes up is craft skill. So today if you look at whether it is a craftsman or a project management professional, we find the level of training they have had, they are not, for the kind of scale of projects we are undertaking, they are not really, we do not have enough people to handle it. That is basically where we are coming. People we have, isn't that kind of ironic? Country like India, we talked about population growing, exploding, but we still do not have people. Okay, so that is the kind of of the situation we are in, and the only way we can get out of the situation is people understanding what they need to do in terms of knowledge, skill and experience, and then being able to put to practice it properly. You take craftsmen, there is a lack of skilled craftsmen today. So obviously there is a lack of skilled craftsmen. The minute I go to the site and ask a mason who does not have experience to do masonry, the quality is not going to be as good. The engineer who inspects does not know how to ensure that the concrete quality is designed and poured in the right way. So there will again be, when you take out the formwork, there is going to be all kinds of problems. So at every level we need more competence in our people, and that is really from an education perspective, that is really where one of the things which we really need to address, and courses like this in some ways address that.